I was fired on a Tuesday. 3 weeks later, a colleague accidentally forwarded me a group chat. It had been running for 8 months. My entire team was in it. My manager was in it. And every single person who'd stood at my goodbye party, smiling, wishing me well, had a message in there with my name on it. The message came through at 11:47 on a Wednesday night. A forward from a colleague, Marcus. Someone I'd worked with for 3 years, who I genuinely liked. The second I saw the chat name at the top of the screen, I knew something was wrong. I scrolled up. My hands went cold. My name is Rachel. And 3 weeks before that message arrived, I had been fired from the job I'd held for 4 years. HR called it a performance issue. My manager, a man named Greg, delivered it in 11 minutes. He had a printed sheet of talking points. He barely made eye contact. He said the company was moving in a new direction, and that my skill set wasn't aligned with future needs. I had never received a single written warning. I had the highest client retention rate on my team for 2 years running. And 6 months before they let me go, I had personally pulled 2 colleagues, 2 of the people closest to me on that team, through a project that was so close to collapse that we were working weekends in December to save it. But none of that mattered on the Tuesday they walked me out. I went home. I updated my resume. I told myself to move forward. For 3 weeks, I did exactly that. And then Marcus hit forward instead of reply. The group chat was called the water cooler. 41 members. My entire immediate team, 3 people from adjacent departments, and Greg. It had been created 8 months earlier, 4 months before I was let go. I want you to understand something before I tell you what was in it. I was not a difficult employee. I was not someone who complained loudly or caused problems or made the office uncomfortable. If anything, and I know this now, I was the opposite. I was the person who absorbed things quietly, who covered for people, who stayed late without making a show of it. That's the part that took me the longest to understand. But here's what I need you to know before I get there. The chat was not just cruel, it was specific. And the specific part is what changes everything about this story. The messages started small. Screenshots of my emails with comments underneath. Classic Rachel. Did she actually send this? Laughing emojis. The kind of thing that, taken individually, you could almost explain away as office venting. But it didn't stay small. There were messages about the way I dressed. About the questions I asked in meetings, questions Greg himself had encouraged me to ask. There was a thread, 12 messages long, about a presentation I had given in March. A presentation that Greg had told me to my face was exactly what the client needed. 12 messages. Most of them from people who had attended that presentation, nodded along, and said nothing. And then there were the messages about the December project. 2 people on my team, Tyler and Diane, had been drowning in December. The project was theirs. The deadline was theirs. And they were not going to make it. I had stepped in voluntarily. I had restructured the timeline, rewritten 3 deliverables, and sat on calls with the client at 7 in the morning so Tyler and Diane could get a few extra hours. The client had written a commendation email afterward. It went to Greg. Greg had forwarded it to the team. Everyone, including Tyler and Diane, had responded with celebration emojis. In the group chat, the week after that email went out, Diane had written, "She only did it to make us look bad." Tyler had replied, 100%. Classic performance for management. 11 people had reacted with a laugh. Remember, I said the specific part changes everything. I hadn't understood yet why they fired me. I was starting to. I sat with that chat for 2 days. I didn't reply to Marcus. I didn't call anyone. I didn't post anything. I just read it, all of it. Every message, every thread, every date stamp. And what I found, when I read it in order, from the beginning, was not chaos. It was a pattern. The chat had started 2 weeks after I had flagged a concern to Greg privately. A resourcing issue on an account that I believed was being mishandled. I had been careful about it, professional, I had put it in writing. Greg had responded warmly, said he appreciated me raising it, said he'd look into it. 2 weeks later, the water cooler was created. I kept reading. Over the following months, the chat evolved. It stopped being random venting and started being coordinated. There were messages where Greg would flag something I'd done, a question I'd asked, a concern I'd raised in a meeting, and the team would respond. Not just with mockery, with agreement, with additions. With their own examples, curated and shaped over time, it was a paper trail being built in reverse, not documenting problems with my performance, manufacturing the appearance of them. I'm almost at the part where I tell you what I did. And this next piece, the thing I found at the very bottom of the chat, is the reason I decided to act at all. The last thread in the chat was dated 4 days before my termination. Greg had written, "Wrapping up the Rachel situation next week. Make sure your written feedback is in the system by Friday. Keep it consistent with what we've discussed." 14 people had acknowledged it. Tyler, Diane, people I had covered for, people I had trained, people who had my personal number and had texted me on my birthday. Keep it consistent with what we've discussed. There had been no discussion I was part of. They had built the file before they pulled the trigger, and they had used the people I had helped the most to do it. I took 1 week. I gathered everything I had, the commendation email from the December client, my performance metrics for the previous 2 years, every piece of written communication where Greg had praised my work, the email where I had flagged the resourcing concern and his response, and Marcus's accidental forward with every message, every date, every name. Then I called an employment lawyer. She read through everything in 2 days. She called me back on a Thursday afternoon and said 4 words I hadn't expected. "This is very clear." I won't go into every detail of what followed. What I will tell you is this. The company did not want this in front of a judge. They settled, quickly. The terms are confidential, so I can't tell you the number, but I can tell you it was enough. And I can tell you that as part of the settlement, an independent HR review was conducted. A review that 4 other former employees were invited to participate in. 4 people who had left in the previous 2 years. 4 people who had also been walked out with no written warnings, no prior documentation, and a printed sheet of talking points from Greg. Greg is no longer at the company. Tyler and Diane still are. I think about that sometimes. Not with anger, not anymore. With something closer to clarity. Because Tyler and Diane believed that what they were doing was safe. That loyalty to the person above them was the only currency that mattered. That someone who helped them could be discarded when she became inconvenient. They were right that I was discarded. They were wrong that it was safe. Because the one thing they didn't account for, the one thing Greg didn't account for, was Marcus hitting forward instead of reply on a Wednesday night. 1 mistake, 41 members, 8 months of messages. And a woman with 2 years of receipts, who knew exactly what to do with them. If this story stayed with you, a like genuinely helps more people find it who need to hear it. If you know someone who's been walked out of a job and told it was their performance, share this with them today. And if you're not here yet, subscribe. I share stories like this every single week. One question before you go. Have you ever helped someone at work, genuinely, without being asked, and watched them use it against you? Tell me in the comments. Because I think more people have sat in Rachel's chair than anyone admits.